All right, I am back again, and I'm definitely going to try to keep this short, sweet, and simple to the point because I'm outside, and there's a reason behind this. And right now, pardon the language, being in the southeast, uh, it's kind of hotter than Satan's ball sack, truth be told. And Satan right now has a bad case of the swamp ass. Middle of June, and it is approaching mid 90s, low to mid 90s. The humidity is a good 50%, if not more, so it feels closer to 100. um, and like I said, there's a reason why I'm out here enduring this, which I will hopefully get to very quickly. There are certain things I don't talk about, and that's usually giving advice. That's because a lot of people are not worthy of that advice. What do I mean by that? A lot of what I know is stuff that's been passed down to me. Some of it's trial and error, but a lot of it is like ancestral knowledge. And I want to be a bit of a gatekeeper of that because it's stuff passed down by my ancestors. And I kind of take pride in that information. I kind of want to protect it. So when I'm doing stuff with a garden, or right now as it does seem to be a bit more of a weed patch, before it turned 90, it was rather nice temperatures, but raining every few days to where the ground didn't dry out enough to do anything. And then all of a sudden it turned hot and dry. But yeah, the heat wave is not the only thing that's affecting the southeast where I'm at. And that is, we've got a crap ton of people moving into the southeast from other states, especially up north and out in like California. And the natives, we don't like it, truth be told. That's why we're protective of our information. We don't like the outsiders, the invaders, as we not so lovingly call them. A lot of them, they act like they know everything, and they don't. They want to move to a rural area, such as, well, this. Everything you just saw has been in my family since the 1940s. And the only reason it has been in the family since the 1940s is the land that my family owned from the late 1700s was taken by a little thing that a lot of people in the southeast know as the Tennessee Valley Authority. And we're still in the same county. So my family had been in this particular part of the country for well over 200 years. You're talking 1780s to 1790s is when they first started coming in that we know of. So that's a long time. We know the area quite well. We have traditions in my family that date back that far. I use some of the same equipment my great grandparents used. When I'm doing stuff like this, to me, it's not a homestead fad that came up the last few years. When I'm doing stuff like this, I'm working the soil my ancestors worked, doing stuff my ancestors did. And that's important to me. When I'm doing stuff like this, and using some of the same tips and techniques that's been passed down to me from previous generations, I'm honoring those ancestors. which again is important to me. Now you're starting to see where I'm going with this. Why I'm not inside where it's 72 degrees. And on certain social media platforms, I'm in groups centered around agriculture. Because there may be some people that are like me that have been around a while, and they may know some stuff that I've forgotten or some stuff I didn't know. However, there's a lot of those transplants in those groups trying to glean information. And they will ask questions, which is all good and all, except if you give them an answer that they don't like, they get quite angry with you. And they want to know why the locals hate their guts. Why many of us curse the day they were ever born. The transplants, we curse the day they were born. Because they come in and they know everything about everything. And if you try to tell them anything other than what they already know, you're wrong. You're not being helpful. See, there is a tradition in my family. I learned about this from my grandmother and her brother, who are the oldest people that were in my family that I knew, who learned it from their parents and so on and so forth. And that is, you want to try and respect nature. To a certain degree, the plants. Maybe not the weeds and invasive species, but the plants, the animals. Again, not the invasive species so much. But respect them. If they're not, like if the animals are not hurting anything, leave them alone. That's something I heard many times growing up. And in this particular post that got me riled up, this person who moved from New Jersey to a rural area was upset because 3 skunks has been walking through their yard. And that is a threat to their food. That is a threat to their family and their safety. And they need to get rid of them, either trap them and relocate them or kill them. Their words. And I responded with basically sharing my ancestral knowledge. That, you move to a more rural area, you're going to have to deal with wildlife. Because this is more their natural habitat. And you have to learn to deal with that. You have to learn to coexist with it because, again, this is their home. And as long as they're not causing harm, leave them alone. Because trying to even relocate them can create more issues. Or killing them can create issues that you don't foresee. And I shared a post from a wildlife rehabilitator about those effects. Not only do you have to worry about them having babies that are depending on them to stay alive, that could be affected by it. But if you relocate them, there may be other animals, even of that same species or others, that are already there, already established, and that's their territory, and they will take them out. And I was deemed not being helpful. I was deemed a troll for saying that. Because, well, do you say anything about processing animals for food? What about, you're just a hypocrite because I bet you don't allow rats in your house. And I brought up false equivalences. Because it's one thing to take an animal and use it for food, for your food, for yourself, your family. It's another thing if it causes harm to your property. Breaking into your home, to, causing damage to your home to gain entry. That's a different story. And they couldn't understand that. There is a difference between nature, a bird flying around, maybe just building a nest in a tree, or in the case of the truck I don't get to use very often or I choose not to use very often because it gets 16 miles to a gallon and gas is freaking expensive right now. Even though it only gets driven a couple times a week, there's a bird's nest in it right now. Discovered that today, actually. So I'm going to be a little bit more hesitant on using it until those babies that have hatched get out. Yes, it's a little bit of a nuisance. And I just saw the mother go back to that same truck right now. But is any real harm being done? The answer is no. No damage is being done. And in a couple weeks, those babies will probably be gone. Flying away. The nest will be cleared out. And it won't matter if I'm using said truck. I could easily justify trying to move that nest, but in relocating, chances are all 4 of those babies that are in that nest will wind up dead. Am I respecting nature and the balance of nature by doing that? It's an inconvenience, yes, but does it justify doing that? And with my family, how many times have I already said that that was their ancestral knowledge to respect nature? Would I be honoring them and their teachings? I would not. And one thing I found very interesting on that post, there were people who were native to this area. And every single one of them were like, he answered your question. You didn't like the answer. What do you think will happen if you get rid of those animals? There will be more come, because that's their habitat. Most of the people that ridiculed me were also transplants. Actually, I think all of them who ridiculed me were transplants. There was one, I will say, that they did come out and say the same thing. He answered your question. You didn't like what he said. And they said, one thing I learned when I came to this area, a more rural area, was that there are animals. And that I had to learn to live with them. And the general consensus upon us was, if you can't learn to be with nature, don't try to move out to be with nature. There are good and bad that come with it. And to move out into nature and try to eradicate nature, that same nature you chose to go to. In my mind, you're no better than the people that go out and hunt a lion just to have your picture taken, maybe get a head mount and leave the carcass to rot. Or same with a deer, what have you. You are, in my mind, you're the type of person that is parasitic to the world. You're the type of person that, again, people like me, we curse your existence. Because people like me, we tend to love nature. We tend to respect nature, to want to honor it. Because truth be told, that's our ancestral ties, but without nature, we understand we die. Humans are dependent on nature to exist. Let that sink in. Different animals serve different parts in nature to help create a healthy ecosystem to which we can live in. Whether it's the honeybees and bumblebees like I'm seeing all around me in the clover in the yard, which I put out more because we need more pollinators in this area. And I'm trying to make the yard more habitable to the pollinators. That's important. They're important. Skunks, they're important too. And as long as they're not threatening you, leave them be. And yeah, maybe I'm a little bit biased because I like animals more than people, truth be told. There's a reason why. All the people that have done me wrong have been people. Most of the animals that have done me wrong, usually there's people involved there too. And another interesting point I will make, and then I will leave this be. If all the animals died and it was just the people, we would die too. If all the people would die, if all the people on the planet died, the animals would thrive. We need them more than they need us. That's something to consider, isn't it? Everything about nature is about life is finding a balance. That's the whole point of nature, that's the whole point of life, is the balances, the checks and balances. And the thing I've learned is that if you respect that, nature has more of a tendency to respect you. Because they let on like these animals are just, oh, they ate a plant or two. They ate a plant or two in my garden. That's the end of the world, we're all going to die. I pretty much plan on that happening to a certain extent. But here's the thing. Once I get to a certain point, my garden thrives. And they ultimately leave it alone. I get plenty of produce to last me. Once you learn to live with nature and learn how to cohabitate with them, usually nature leaves you alone. But you have to respect nature. And people that can't respect nature, I curse your existence. Because like I said, we need nature to live. Nature don't need us. This video has gone way longer than I was hoping. Let me know what you think. If I get a notification, you make a comment, I'll try to review it and reply. I'm going to go in and have me something cold to drink because I'm freaking melting right now. But yeah, let me know what you think. Later.